Jackie, it says host disabled screen sharing.
Apologies, is it working now?
Yes. And just confirm if the sound works because it did not prompt me.
We do not hear it.
Yeah, I don't hear anything.
Okay, let me try again.
Should be a check mark on the bottom corner, I believe, that'll ask you for to share sound.
There it is.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live-streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, thank you. We'll move on now to roll call here. Jackie, if you could take a roll call, please.
Member Arce?
Present.
Member Costa?
Here.
Member Karimi? Member Keeshan? Member Olson? You're on mute.
Oli, you're on mute.
I do see you here, and I will go ahead and count you in there.
I think he's in here. He'll just working on the audio.
Okay.
I can verify that's Oli. Yep.
Member Pinkham?
I am here.
Okay.
Thank God.
Member Riley?
Present.
Thank you. Member Riker?
Here.
Vice Chair Dugan?
Here.
Chair Sarmiento?
Here.
Thank you. So we have Member Karimi and Member Keeshan absent. Olson is here. He's just on mute. So, all right. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jackie. The next, I'm going to item 2, which is public comment. Jackie, have we received any public comment?
No public comment received.
All right. Thank you. Is there any members of the public wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? If so, please raise your hand and I or staff will call upon you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. All right, I don't see any hands up or anyone speaking about for public comment. So yeah, I'll move on to item 3, which is the consent calendar, which includes
Ozzy,
December-
I'm sorry. I saw a physical hand go up from
Oh, what?
From Ozzy.
Mhm.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, Ozzy, go ahead. My apologies.
Thanks, Robert. I just wanted to make a general announcement about, I think I'd mentioned it to some CCTA staff, but I have accepted a position, senior transportation planner position with the city of Palo Alto. So I will be jumping the pond and heading to the peninsula at the beginning of February. So this will be my last CBPAC meeting. Super sad about that. But I know that A, I won't be going very far, and B, I'll be sure to see a lot of you still at regional active transportation meetings and the like. So you can't get rid of me that easily, but I did want to let you all know that it's been a pleasure working with you all, and that the work continues, and hopefully we get a chance to cross paths in the near future. So thank you for your time, Robert.
All right, thanks, Ozzy. Congrats, and yeah, you'll be missed here at the CBPAC meeting. But yeah, congrats on your new job. Bill, I did see your hand up. You have a comment?
I'm sorry, I was waving goodbye.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll move on. I don't see any other. Oh, okay. Oh, it's just adjusting the camera here. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from the November 29, 2021 meeting. Are there any changes, comments, etc. from the committee? All right, I don't see any hands up. Anyone from the public like to speak on the item in the consent calendar? Please raise your hand or speak up. All right, I don't hear any members of the public. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Bill, is that a motion? All right. Well, Bill, you're muted. So, but
Good grief. You think I'd know by now? I so move.
okay. So I have a motion by motion by Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. That's
all right.
Ozzy.
So I have a first by Bill and a second by Ozzy. So Jackie, you do a roll call vote, please.
Committee member Arce,
Yes.
committee member Costa,
Yes.
committee member Karimi, committee member Keeshan, committee member Olson,
Yes.
member Pinkham,
Yes.
member Riley,
Yes.
member Riker,
Yes.
vice chair Dugan,
Yes.
chair Sarmiento.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with committee members Keeshan and committee member Karimi absent.
All right. Thanks, Jackie. Next, we'll move on to the regular agenda items, which is start with item 4. Review the draft regional active transportation plan. Where this item is going to be presented by CCTA staff Colin Clark.
Yep, and I'm sharing screen. Let's see. Thank you, Chair. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen, Chair?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you. So an email will probably be going out later today to each of the local agencies requesting feedback on the draft regional routes that have been identified by MTC for bike and ped active transportation routes. It's being called, it's meant to be a network, but as you can see here, a number of portions of this 9-county region it's kind of segments more than necessarily a contiguous network, which is hopefully where this leads in the long run. But this is a first draft from MTC. I'll send the link, and hopefully everyone can have a chance sometime in the next week, before the end of day next Monday, to submit any comments regarding this draft, and elevate any potential comments to the CCTA, in terms of, level of importance, if there's major rather than minor comments. Otherwise, you'll be able to input your comments yourself into this tool, and chair and vice chair, we can use this time however you like. There's a number of items on the agenda today, but I had set this up in a way that we can do this in an interactive way, if you would like, so that we can kind of zoom in and see the routes that you're familiar with in your area that you represent, and just do kind of a high level overview before doing a deep dive on our own time.
Thanks, Colin. And I think this is a question for the group. Want to take a few minutes to go through the map? Would that work for everybody? Okay. Oh, I see only a couple. Oh, I have to see.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Robert, I would, I don't know if you mentioned this, Colin, but I think the comments and any line work on here are due January 30th, right? 31st?
31st, yes.
31st. Okay, thanks. And what we're looking at here are the gaps, but you have all those layers down there existing, and
exactly.
Starts to get really busy.
And actually, Colin, I was going to suggest maybe we go by sub-region just to make it easier. If you could zoom in on one sub-region, get comments, then move on to the next sub-region.
Sounds good. I'm not seeing the plus sign. Do you guys see it on your end?
Zoom in.
Yeah, it's not.
It's on the bottom left, next to tool design. Yeah. There you go.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the kind of tricky things about this tool is just make sure that as you're going through this, the grayed out layers on the left-hand side, you can turn those, on and off depending on what you're looking at, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. For example, the Iron Horse Trail. There's been some comments in that it was maybe missing from the MTC's regional network. So just make sure to click on the existing layer as well as the planned layers of bike networks. And then you can certainly, compare this with the countywide bike and ped plan and your updated local plan from your local agency, if to identify things that differ. I think the main distinction to be made is that not everything's necessarily going to be elevated to the level of regional significance in terms of the 9-county region. Some things will be of local significance, some things will be countywide significance, and then other things will be regional significance. So we'll do WCTAC first, I suppose.
Colin, sorry, real quick question. Do you know the source of this, if it's jurisdictions existing bike master plans, and then they built off of that?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the countywide bike and ped plan network is the GIS version that Tool Design and MTC are using to create this map. And so from a CCTA perspective, it was adopted in July of 2018. And so if there's any, updates at a local level that have occurred, and I do know that there's multiple agencies that have been working on active transportation plan updates, please do, contact me and let me know if there's any updates that occurred at a local level that rise to countywide significance.
Colin, this is Robert. I was going to ask, I know you have it currently off. Can you toggle on for a little bit the existing bicycle facilities? Thanks. All right, so if any committee members want to comment on the West County subregion, feel free to speak up.
Central County. We're just doing a high level overview.
All right, I see Bill.
Bill,
Bill
ahead.
has his hand raised.
I was just about the West County. I didn't see the Greenway listed as class 4 or the extension of that on some of that on Richmond Parkway is also class 4. And part of the route to the Centerville Bridge is class 4 also. The end of it. Doesn't seem to be marked that way.
Thank you, Bill.
Colin, can you scroll up to the Crockett Rodeo area, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't mind, if you could scroll down on the sidebar again, so you can see the colors. Yeah, thank you.
So the orange dots are the mobility hubs.
All right, if anybody else has any comments on West County, you can just speak up, or if you raise your hand, I realize
I have a general comment. I did read the 2-page blurb real quick, Colin, but can you describe real briefly what is the definition of a mobility hub for the good of the group?
Yeah, let me see if I have that. Do you have the document?
Let's see.
I may have that.
Mobility hub. Is it in that 2-page? Oh.
Yeah. So January of 2021, there was the MTC released vision saying we envision a Bay Area where many more people can walk, bike, and roll every day on safe, accessible, and connected streets, trails, and paths to get to people, places, and transit. So that was the vision, or that is the draft vision statement going into this draft regional plan, first ever active transportation plan. The mission statement says maintain, expand, and connect pedestrian, bicycle, and micromobility facilities and programs through planning, coordinating, and funding. Invest in quality infrastructure that provide inclusive transportation and recreation opportunities for people from all backgrounds, abilities, and ages to enjoy, especially those who live in equity priority communities. And so in terms of how it was developed, the Regional Active Transportation Plan Network is meant to implement Plan Bay Area 2050, so the regional transportation plan that was adopted in October of 2021. And so all that, the network criteria going into this active transportation plan were developed through the stakeholder process that started in early summer of last year, 2021. And there's been multiple presentations to the active transportation working group regionally, and getting input from different stakeholder groups in different meeting settings. So the three kind of high level main topics in terms of criteria: one is equity, two is mode shift, and three is safety. So a lot of the Vision Zero work that's being done at the regional level is meant to feed into this regional plan as well, to help implement and move toward Vision Zero for reducing transportation related fatalities and severe injuries. Vice Chair Dugan, is there anything else you want me to highlight?
Thank you very much. No, that was great. And I see there's a link in that document that hopefully everybody has. So I can't find you. Where's your screen? Sorry. That goes into the methodology for choosing those sites, which is kind of a lot to go over right now, but I think it's important to look at it and see how they rank the top 25 mobility centers. Yeah. Hubs.
So there's regional downtown, urban district, emerging urban district, suburban, pulse hubs, and opportunity hub. So MTC is working to finalize this network next month in February. And the plan itself, the active transportation plan, would be published in early summer.
Hi, Colin, you want to move back to Central County here?
Yeah.
All right. All right, if anybody has any comments on the Central County subregion, feel free to speak up or raise your hand.
You mentioned earlier that the Iron Horse Trail was added, though. What about like the canal, like the Water District Trail and all those?
Are you referring to the existing or planned?
Existing.
So like the Contra Costa Canal Trail, like the east-west?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. That should be. let's see, just north of Heather Farms. Yeah, it looks like it's not.
Yeah, Colin, I would think if you show the canal trail, it would be one giant U starting in
Right.
Martinez. Yeah, and I don't see, I mean, other than this, what you've added as a comment.
Right.
I see Bill's hand up. Bill.
Yeah, this sort of incidental to this, but I've been one of the reps on the Vision Zero committee from this committee, and there have been no meetings announced quite a while. Does anyone know what's happened to that committee? Do you, Sean?
What was the name of that committee? Sorry.
I guess the Vision Zero committee, is that CCTA?
Yeah, so the Vision Zero policy implementation guide was the main deliverable coming out of that group. And that was adopted in September of 2021 on the 15th.
Okay. I hadn't heard anything else about it. Okay, fine.
Alan, do you have, if you zoom back out and go north, another one that's noticeably missing is a future extension. Actually, let me zoom up just to make sure I'm correct here. By the north of Concord, like the Iron Horse Trail extension north of State Route 4.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not. There's a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt. I do see Bruce's hand up too. I don't know if you can see his screen, Robert. But
no.
real quickly, that regarding what you just said, we're going through this at the Park District, and one of the questions I had for MTC was, will you accept shape files? Because I'm not really sure why, but there's a lot of missing things, like you're pointing out, and it really is. You're being asked to hand draw those in. And so they won't accept shape files. So, but anyway, we're looking at this quite a bit as far as the Iron Horse Trail goes. I think we'll be adding quite a bit on our end. But sorry, go ahead, Bruce. I see your hands up there.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to see as a future planned bike route, a connection between the Contra Costa Canal Trail and the Iron Horse Trail through the Interstate 680-California 4 interchange, which CCTA is working on right now. I'd like to see that added in as planned, please. And when we get to the East County portion of our discussion, I'll talk as an activist about a connection from East County to Central County. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Oli. I see Kirsten, your virtual hands up.
Yeah, hi. I find this map pretty difficult to use and understand. I was looking at it last week, so if I'm getting it wrong, let me know. But it seems like it doesn't show any existing or gap markers connecting Martinez to the rest of Pleasant Hill. So if you scoot over, so I'm not sure if shouldn't there be either an existing or a gap connecting downtown Martinez to Pleasant Hill?
Thanks, Kristen. And I wonder about that too, because Alhambra has some existing facilities. The county's been working, and they've done some segments already on Pacheco Boulevard, in the Vine Hill area, at least connecting that to Pleasant Hill as well. But yeah, there's generally just a lot missing, and I agree with Kirsten, just a lot missing in Martinez.
I was also surprised to see that, Martinez has an intermodal station there, and I was surprised to see that wasn't a mobility hub, but why I was sort of looking into the criteria there. I thought that if there were transit centers, that those would be labeled as such.
Member Dugan, are you thinking of the Amtrak station?
Yeah, isn't that also a bus station as well?
I think so, yeah. So I don't know how formal we want to kind of make all these comments, if we want to make them as, the entire CBPAC representing CCTA or what have you. I guess we don't have a ton of time before next Monday. And so if people want to individually add the comments into the map and then send an email to me if it elevates to a region level of significance, and then we can talk internally at CCTA and see if we can amplify some of those comments at the countywide level.
All right, if there are no other Central County comments, we can move on to East County. And Oli, I know, yeah, I see your hands up, and you mentioned you had some comments, so go ahead.
Yeah, Ole Olson, resident of East County. I regularly ride to Central County. I'm speaking as an activist now and a regular bicyclist. We don't have a safe route from Central County to East County or vice versa. Currently, the safest route is on Highway 4, 8-lane freeway for a 1-mile segment. I ride it only once a week, and I get stopped approximately once a year by the highway patrol. The new employee doesn't understand that bicyclists are allowed on certain segments of freeway. I haven't been arrested yet, but been threatened. I sure would like this organization to make a strong comment to MTC that this needs to be built, not just planned, so that MTC can in turn put pressure on CCTA and whoever else they want to get a safe route between our segments of county, East County, Central County. This is a regional importance, and everybody I speak with about riding on the freeway says they'll attend my funeral. So the average motorist doesn't think it's very smart for a bicyclist to be on the freeway. Kirker Pass is just as bad. There's not a complete shoulder in addition to the 1,000 feet of climb. All right, I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Thanks, Oli. Any other comments for the East County subregion? I have one comment, Colin, and I think I don't see on this map. I know Caltrans District 4 is, studying, a super highway concept in the Bay Area, and I think one of the segments they were looking at is State Route 4 in East County, which I do not see in this map.
And just to clarify, so there's the Caltrans District 4 bike highway concept planning study. What Caltrans has emphasized is that those two segments of Highway 4 that they're choosing to spend more time and effort looking into what the concept might look like is not a project proposal. It's meant to look at a certain typology of right-of-way that could be applicable elsewhere in the 9-county region. So I guess I just want to clarify that it's not necessarily a project yet.
Okay.
But I mean, if the county has a project like that on the books, you know, I should definitely know about that, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, it would definitely, I'll definitely let you know, Colin, if we have any like a specific or individual project along that corridor.
Sounds good. And this is the area you're thinking of, right?
I thought it was going to be the whole segment of State Route 4 East, but you know what? And you might
East of 680.
Yeah, I think you're correct though. I mean, I guess it's a study and it's conceptual in nature, so maybe they don't have a specific alignment or anything, or identify just more of the corridor, somewhere along the corridor. Even though I do recall in previous meetings with Caltrans staff, they did say they wanted something, an alignment close to the existing State Route 4 right of way. So, hi, Oli, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a raise hand feature available to me. That's why I'm waving my hand. Sorry.
That's okay.
Caltrans is planning the new State Route 239, 237 that is going to parallel or be on top of the Byron Highway. It would be wonderful if we could mention that, because it is a route of regional importance from Tracy to Brentwood. And since we're planning to build a freeway from scratch, we can get the Caltrans concept of a bicycle superhighway built in from day one of the planning. That would be wonderful. And if I could continue, the superhighway concept could use in East County, could use existing East Bay Regional Park District trails, starting with the end of the Highway 239 project. We could use a segment of the Marsh Creek Trail, switch over to the McCollum Aqueduct Trail using our new bridge over Highway 4, and then follow the Delta de Anza Trail, which is planned to be all the way to the Iron Horse Trail, but is closely parallel to Highway 4 and is most of the way existent, except for a little chunk in Central County. But I understand if we're not going to comment on Caltrans's conceptual ideas.
All right, thanks, Oli. And I see Kristen's hand up.
Yeah, I guess, again, I'm looking at connecting some of the communities like Discovery Bay with Brentwood and the busier sections of East County. And then this planned line here, the dotted line to the north, what is that actually connecting?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. That is it's the McCollum Costa Crest Trail and the California Delta Trail. It's an option with the Delta Protection Commission. The way the Park District set up the proposed Delta Trail segments was like what looked most, whatever came first would become the Delta Trail. So there's this alignment here, and then there's a few to the north that all lead to the water, to the Indian Slough and other, because the Delta Trail is going to be a land and water trail eventually, linking Sacramento to the Bay Area. And so that's what this is along Orwood Road. And if you see the vertical sort of dark gray line there, there's actually a segment across the Orwood Bridge by Orwood Resort of this trail already built. And so it's I don't know when it's going to happen, but that's what that is. But I always am really curious about the diagonal one from Brentwood down along the railroad right of way. If you scroll down, Colin, that would be like Iron Horse Trail-esque, reusing, rail to trail. That one's always been an interesting one to me. I'm not really sure the status of that railroad corridor or not. It hasn't come up on top of the priority list, the Park District anyway, but it's on our master plan as well. I think that's where these lines came from. This is the BOTC network, the Bay Area Trails Collaborative Network. And I provided all of our, what I thought were regional trails of regional significance to BOTC to include in their regional map. And it's here as a background layer. And I'm not sure, I think one of the questions we have is that going to be a part of the MTC's network, or is it just a background reference? And they didn't really answer that, I don't think, at the last meeting. But that is a good question, because it's quite a bit, as you see. I don't know if that answered your question, Kirsten. I hope it did.
No, it's good information. Thank you. It still doesn't necessarily connect Discovery Bay or some of those other outlying rural areas to Brentwood, where there's much more happening. So pretty much still have to drive. We get a lot of comments from schools that, oh, we don't even want your bike ped safety education out here because we don't want kids walking and biking. So
I think it's, we're open to draw on this on this map. I just don't know what makes the cut.
Yeah.
So in this situation, I feel like I would follow Oli's methodology of just drawing all over this thing and seeing what makes the cut.
One, Colin, if I asked, we could scroll up to the Bay Point area, because I'm wondering if the California Delta Trail is included in that area as well. It looks.
Yeah, so I see the dark line with the black outline. There's like a dark green with the black sort of mask, I guess you would, if you will. And it's not really matching anything in the legend. Is there more legend that we're not seeing here, Colin? Or I don't know if
it looks like the state highway system need for a bicycle route by Caltrans. I'm clicking it on and off. If you see it here and here.
So this if you moved your cursor to the Delta Trail, you see there's a dotted line up top, and then it turns to solid. So go all the way to the north of the county, up to Pittsburgh with your cursor, and that is a planned Delta Trail route, right, Robert? That's
actually that's the one I'm referring to. Okay, it's in there. Okay,
but it's not necessarily matching the legend. That's why this map is equally confusing to me, is that I'm not really sure, because it has a black background.
And actually, just to clarify, Colin, I want to see if this works. If you turn off, can you turn off existing bicycle facilities at the bottom? Because I wonder. Okay, and then if you turn off this green off-street bicycle facility, because I have a feeling it's the gaps have the black border. Yeah, okay. I guess if it's a regional gap, it's going to have the border, whether it's green or blue or yellow.
So
I see your hand. Oh, go ahead, Sean. Then Oli, I'll go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, it's really that this is back to my point about the Bay Area Trails Collaborative data, because that was pretty much every planned and existing trail that I could give them in our GIS database. You see it here as a dotted line as the Delta Trail, and you see a portion of it finding its way into what I think is MTC's network, but a portion of it is just the BOTC network. So I guess it remains, the question remains to be answered. I think is that what is the BOTC network going to be added completely in, because I thought it had the Iron Horse Trail in there and everything, and the Delta Trail. So sorry, go ahead, Oli.
Yeah, it seems reasonable to me that given that Military Ocean Terminal Concord exists here, and they are never going to allow pedestrians and bicyclists. We should suggest to MTC that that dashed line of which you speak, Sean, should be removed, or a note should be put there. We're never going to get that until this military base closes. A little history on the side, if you'll allow me. This is one of 2 military munitions transshipment bases in the United States. This is the one for the Pacific Theater. The one for the Atlantic Theater is in New Jersey. So this base isn't going away very soon. They have 10 ships per year roughly coming in and out of there. They have about 100 trucks per ship that go through Bay Point. The truck entrance is in Nichols, which is close to Bay Point. They changed their truck entrance away from Clyde now. But that's neither here nor there. We need to kind of get in the general direction of we got a plan for reality, and going through this military base is not reality. We can tell that to MTC, put that in their pipe and smoke it. Sorry.
Thanks, Oli. And you know, just respond to Oli's comment, I wonder if this would work. I would think we could still leave the line there, because who knows, maybe one of these days they'll leave one day, you know. But I wonder if there's an alternate that's more, you know, near term, for instead of, you know, near term that could be just shown on this map.
It's both great comments, and I totally agree with that. The MOTSI is not going anywhere, and the Delta Protection Commission I think they're going to propose an interim designation of the California Delta Trail on the Delta de Anza Trail, because the one to the north doesn't exist. But it could work from Bay Point east, but possibly connecting from the Benicia Bridge down to the Iron Horse Trail through the future connection through the former Concord Naval Weapons Station up to Delta de Anza, and then connect that way. It would be a roundabout way, but it would get you around Clyde and the terminal. So I agree, it's not realistic up there.
Yes, thank you, Sean. A good analysis.
And Chair, if I may, this is really good conversation, really good discussion. I just want to point out that we do have a number of other agenda items, so I'm not sure, you know, just pointing that out.
Understood. Yeah, and I thanks for the reminder, Colin. You know what? Maybe we'll do a quick South County look, and then maybe spend a minute or 2 on that, and then we can move on. So if anybody has any comments on the South County area, which includes La Miranda, Tri-Valley area, raise your hand or just speak up. Take a minute or 2 here.
Just speaking as the South County rep, I've been adding comments to build out the unknown bicycle facility areas and under data errors. So I don't know if that's the proper way to be filling out the map, but that's what I'm doing.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. Any other comments? And Colin, a request if you can move down to the Tri-Valley area real quick here.
So just to reiterate, Colin, you're looking for channeling major regional comments and bigger picture type comments and questions through CCTA, maybe through email or something to you, but then any sort of line work and any other type of like fine detailed comments that we're supposed to put in this map, people should go ahead and just do that. Is that correct?
I think so, but I'm open to suggestions on different approaches.
That's what I was thinking as well, Sean. Like bigger comments we talk about it here at CBPAC. And then if you have individual comments on individual segments, you just submit those or submit those on the map separately. One comment on this map I see, Colin, I'm just kind of surprised there's no lines at all in the Black Hawk east, anywhere east of 680. Just kind of surprised there's nothing there, but I'll make that comment individually. All right, any other final comments on the map in general, or any questions for Colin on how to submit comments, fill out the map? Okay, don't see any hands raised or anything. So thanks all for the input on that. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item B, an update on the California Transportation Commission's Active Transportation Program Cycle 6. And Colin's going to be presenting that item as well.
So just a real quick overview of some of what CTC, the California Transportation Commission, is discussing publicly with the ATP Active Transportation Program Cycle 6 program criteria updates. It's being revised as we speak, and I just wanted to highlight a few things, at least let you know at a high level some of what's being discussed, and to have you have the opportunity to provide input to CTC as it goes through its committee process. So it's a 5-year cycle, sorry, 4-year cycle, and CTC's report calls the ATP program severely oversubscribed, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. That's why the CTC is asking for $2 billion, and I think the governor's proposed budget at this time includes $500 million proposed. So here's the general schedule. I'll just go through this real quickly, just so you're aware, and we can certainly share these slides after the meeting. Some of what is changing or being emphasized, for example, is housing related in terms of the housing designation that the state now has. The ATP program criteria, it sounds like, is going to encourage local agencies to become members of this pro-housing designation program. But in future cycles, it might become a requirement. So just a heads up there. What else is here? Not recommending non-infrastructure as a set aside because of the need that CTC sees, proposing to focus spending on construction, for example. The project size thresholds are changing. These slides are dated, I want to say January 11th. So it has since been updated, but just a heads up about the thresholds. They are changing, and so want to highlight that for everyone. Other stuff is more procedural and having to do with cancellation of projects, reporting. So I'll leave it there, just at a high level, and open to questions and comments.
Thanks for the update, Colin. Any members have any questions or comments for Colin?
Just a comment and a question, just making it even more difficult to get this money. So the updated criteria that the state adopts, it also trickles down to MTC as well, right, for the regional allocation. Is that true?
Right, for the regional allocation for ATP cycle 6.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
all this criteria will be across the board for both the local and statewide.
I think so. And then MTC, I suppose, would add on top of that their own criteria that helps implement Plan Bay Area 2050, the Regional Active Transportation Plan, Vision Zero, and other kind of policy priorities.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Colin? If none, are there any members of the public who'd like to speak on this item? All right, I don't see any hands raised. So thank you, Colin, for that update. Actually, you're on for the next item as well, which is the region-wide complete streets policy and project checklists.
Thank you, Chair. So this is what we discussed a little bit earlier, just as an intro, the different criteria that goes into the active transportation plan network that MTC is proposing: equity, mode shift, safety. And then as part of this overall plan adoption and development process, the complete streets policy is being updated. And so there's 2 slides here that at a high level summarize how the complete streets policy is existing versus changing. So we'll share these slides as well for your opportunity to provide input. Hopefully by the end of this calendar month, by the close of business of January 31st on Monday, and it does include the complete streets checklist that the CBPAC reviews. So just a heads up about this policy update also.
Thank you, Colin. Do any committee members have any questions or comments for Colin on this item? All right, I don't see any hands raised. Any members of the public would like to comment on this item? All right, hearing none. All right, thank you, Colin. We'll move on to item D here, which is an update on the proposed policy framework for OBAG, One Bay Area Grant, Cycle 3. And this item is also presented by Colin.
And I just wanted to give Director Huang an opportunity to present this item if he wishes. Otherwise, I can, at a high level, summarize that the OBAG 3 funding opportunity is coming up, and we at CCTA staff level are working on developing the program criteria for that funding. And we went to the Technical Coordinating Committee, TCC, last week to start having those conversations and get input from the regional transportation planning advisory committees and the local agencies on what we're thinking, at least at this preliminary stage, of what OBAG 3 policy framework may look like. For example, prioritizing projects that are in adopted plans, such as the 2018 Countywide Bike and Ped plan that CCTA adopted, and the projects that a lot of community engagement and that outreach process has already occurred and was robust at the time. Also, encouraging project bundling, because I believe the low end will be about $500,000 per project application, and each agency would have the opportunity to submit or be awarded potentially three applications of $500,000 each for a total of $1.5 million. That would, because MTC's policy criteria has a lot to do with priority development areas, PDAs, from the adopted October 2021 Plan Bay Area 2050. That does feed into a lot of this program policy, so it's not necessarily unique to CCTA by any means. It's from MTC, and it does focus around housing as well. Is there anything else, John, that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, Colin, thanks. So I just want to kind of summarize what Colin kind of mentioned. So this OBAC 3 cycle, we're going to split CCTA. Our proposed idea is to split the potential money 50-50, half going to bike ped plans, bike ped projects, and the other half is going through a signal interconnect project. But for this purpose of this meeting, we'll focus on the bike ped projects. We're thinking there's going to be about $26 million. On the bigger picture, MTC is not allocating any money per se to the counties, including Contra Costa, and that's why for the reason why we don't have an actual number. And for your information, in the past, you may realize that for the local streets and roads, CCTA would allocate money to each city based on formula, lane miles and what was it, population. So we can't even allocate any money at all, period. That's just out of the question this round. Having said that, going back to the bike and ped portion of the money, I think Colin mentioned we're looking at a larger size project, so if you can bundle your project within your jurisdiction, that's better. A minimum of $500,000. And right now, our proposed policy is to allow 2 applications per jurisdiction, with the county allowed up to 4, just because of the 4 sub-region. I think Colin mentioned the 3 applications with $500,000. That's we're limited to 2. We right now our policy is to have 2 per city. Again, the criteria that Colin is developing with us, probably not too much different than what you've seen in the past. Like the coordinated call from OBAC 2. However, we'll be looking at a lot of PDA, priority development area related or connection to PDA section areas. And that's just a criteria that MTC is really emphasizing. So that's going to weigh quite a bit, not only when we evaluate the projects, but keep in mind also MTC, because the FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, audited them last round and wanted MTC to get away from allocating money and really have their own prioritization process. So whatever project list CCTA submit to MTC, it's going to weigh 75% in the total rank in the total evaluation, and 25% of the evaluation will be done at the MTC level. So again, not all projects are going to be funded, even though we select and prioritize it at the county level. Ultimately, MTC makes the final decision. So we're trying to follow the MTC criteria, whatever they've provided us, as much as possible. And Colin, I think you may have mentioned, so priority-wise, we're looking at the projects that have been identified in the bike and ped plan recently, the latest bike and ped, the CCTA bike and ped plan. We presented this information to a couple of committees already, and some of the comments was that, well, since the CCTA bike ped plan have been adopted, the cities and jurisdiction have updated their own plans. So there may be projects that's not included in the CCTA plan. So we'll take that into consideration also. Right now, we're working hard on just coming up with the guidelines just to do the call, and the schedule is pretty tight. We have to put something together by March, April timeline and release it. And then ultimately submit it to MTC and looking at October timeframe to actually fund. So that's in a nutshell. It's a lot of information for you to absorb, but we are drawing up the policy, as I mentioned, and there'll be a lot of details to be included in that. And right now, I think we're just looking for your input from your experience in the past for projects and see what you're thinking on it. Again, we haven't released anything. Everything is still in draft format. So we glad to hear from you.
And just to add to what John emphasized about the 75% of the score being from CCTA and Countywide, and then 25% of the score being from MTC. So we are going to be looking for projects that can score well and compete well at the region-wide level. So 9-county Bay Area. So as you can imagine, that's going to be competitive. Yeah, so just want to kind of point that out as well.
All right. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, John, for that update on OBAG 3. Any committee members have any questions or comments for Colin or John?
I have a quick question. It sounds like, given the funding amounts, what would you say would be the maximum ask per project that you'd want to see to try to spread the wealth? Is that too hard of a question to ask?
No, actually, that's a very good question. I think, Colin, I know we started drafting it. Did you include like a maximum amount?
We had discussed it, and I think last time we touched base on that particular item, we decided not to have a limit, but certainly open to input.
Yeah, but I think maybe a limit might be in order, might be needed, Colin. I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, spreading the wealth, I mean, making sure all the sub-regions has a certain share. I think that's geographical equity is important. So we kind of balance that also. But then again, at the end of the day, we were trying to pick the best projects.
And I think one of the goals that I'd be curious to hear from you all, to hear if this is kind of the direction that you think it should be going, is as the bike ped plan adopted recommends strongly a low traffic stress backbone network of separated, protected bikeways, walkways. If that's something that should be focused on, please do let us know.
And then there's plenty of time. I mean, we'll give you, Colin, we'll give you a lot of time to provide input, but beyond this meeting. I know this is a lot of information to download on you folks, but once we have some kind of draft, I will certainly share with this group. I guess one question I have, which is completely from my experience, I don't know if the county as a whole or the city, or is it the recreational or the transportation? Well, is that, I don't know where folks are as far as this county. I know in other counties I work in, there's always like a need for bike like class 2s for transportation purposes. But then there's also the recreational side of it for the class 1. So we can certainly looking to making sure that both are accommodated somehow if you want, or maybe we just focus everything on transportation. There's something we want to toss out there.
And I do think because some of the funds under the One Bay Area grant are CMAC, air quality, and STP funds federally. And some of those are geared more toward commute-oriented trips. But as you know, with COVID, travel behaviors have changed, are changing. So yeah, still open to your all's input on those topics.
I would only just say in response to that again, given the amount of money that's available, if you just focused on the low stress networks, it's not enough money to complete those gaps in a lot of cases. I don't know. I guess I'm just sort of thinking out loud here. Is that you might want to just think about being open to all ideas, because I don't know how many applications you actually get for class 1 type facilities, whereas the money could be spread a lot more effectively, possibly if there are transportation solutions that are a little bit cheaper to implement.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Vice Chair Dugan. One thing we have been discussing is the possibility of quick build projects and projects that may not have necessarily been included in the 2018 bike ped plan that was adopted, but would, if the application provides sufficient justification to show that we could more quickly move toward countywide Vision Zero as a result of the project, then those projects would be eligible and more competitive.
If I could jump in here.
Yeah, Oli, go ahead.
Olson, a low stress project that would not be particularly expensive would be to get the bicyclists off Highway 4. As you know, CCTA has been thinking about adding an eastbound lane between Highway 242 and the truck climbing lane on Highway 4 going over Willow Pass. And CCTA has hired a consultant to figure out where to route the bicyclists. And it would not be expensive to build that little segment of Delta de Anza Trail between the Willow Pass Road interchange and the North Concord BART station. Sean would love to have that class 1 segment in his trail. So would this bicyclist who regularly rides that segment of freeway. I have to say, it is not a low stress ride on that freeway. Okay, thanks for putting up with me.
Thanks, Oli. Any other comments for Colin and John? Bill, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to note that I just want to note that in a lot of cases, the transportation and the recreational uses of a trail coincide. And so we want to look carefully at that. Example around near me is the Ohlone Greenway. Goes from El Cerrito to Berkeley, in fact, connects with the Richmond Greenway on one end of it. People use that all the time to commute and all the time to enjoy themselves, especially on the weekend with the kids and so on. So something ought to keep in mind, and if a project happens to have significant elements of both, I think we should emphasize that or encourage that project.
All right,
And
thank you,
I'll
Bill.
I'll be making my comment in my presentation coming up, but I think it's important to not discount recreational bicycle use if you're trying to increase the number of overall people willing to bike for transportation. So I'll make my statement in a minute when I do my presentation.
All right, thanks, Kirsten.
And Chair, if I may just add, one thing that's been mentioned in one of the meetings I attended, I guess at the regional level, is that in terms of the travel behavior patterns that have evolved, during COVID and shelter in place type public health orders, the thought is that there's even more of an emphasis on local trips, 3 miles or fewer, because a certain portion of the population is working remotely, working from home, and then traveling locally, not just for lunch, but for errands in the morning and afternoon, which completely changes the whole afternoon versus morning peak hour concept on the most fundamental level. So just want to point that out as well.
All right, thanks, Colin. All right, any final questions or comments from committee members? All right, seeing none, any members of the public have any comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Let me see, no hands. Okay, thank you for that update on OBAG 3. So we'll move on to item E, which is an update on the e-bike rebate program. This is an item going to be presented by Kirsten. Go ahead.
Thank you. First, I'd like to apologize if anybody was at the CCTA board meeting recently, because this is going to be basically a repeat of that presentation. So if you've already heard it, this is a good time to get up and get yourself a cup of coffee and come back in about 7-8 minutes. Okay, so I'm Kirsten from 511 Contra Costa. I believe Darlene and Corey are on the phone as well. They're my 511 colleagues in Southwest and West County. Anyway, I'm here. I'm happy to talk about our e-bike rebate program. And I'd like to start with a little background about why we created this program in the first place and why we think it's so important. So at 511 Contra Costa, we're trying to find a lot of ways to motivate and inspire people to shift their auto trips to cleaner modes such as transit, carpool, and of course, biking and walking. So this rebate program is the first one that we've had that specifically aims to get people on e-bikes, which have been gaining popularity, as you all know, since COVID forced us to stay home and get outside. But even before COVID, the Bay Area already had over 3 times the national average number of bike commuters. But sadly, before we can brag too much about our much higher than average rate of bike commuting, this unfortunate reality is that 3 times the national average is still only a whopping 1.9% of all commuters. So to be clear, that's less than 2% of us actually commuting on a bike, which isn't great. So our team at 511 Contra Costa, we're realistic. We, except for members of this particular group, we know that asking most people to give up their warm, comfortable personal car and switch to bike riding is a pretty big ask. It requires more effort and exertion than waiting at a bus stop, is more dangerous than carpooling with a stranger, and you might have to change clothes and do an awkward bird bath in your work bathroom, which isn't great for most of us. So unless you're already a regular, committed, avid cyclist, those are pretty big and pretty legitimate roadblocks for many of us. Now, we know that most people are not going to suddenly stop driving and become regular bike commuters overnight. So what's the solution? How do we get drivers to start biking instead? Our strategy is to play the long game. We think the key to creating lasting behavior change is the middle step, in between being an always driver and being an often biker. So that middle step is getting people drivers to love biking so that they may eventually become avid cyclists who have the experience and the motivation to consider biking as a replacement for driving, for transportation. Our rebate program, as well as our popular summer bike challenge, were created as part of this long game strategy. So back in October of last year, in 2020, I should say, CCTA gave us the green light to launch a pilot e-bike rebate program, which was the first of its kind in the Bay Area. The goal was to issue 500 rebates using $100,000 of our Measure J funding earmarked specifically for commute alternatives. And 50% was reserved for people with low income. To date, we've issued 530 rebates throughout the county. The idea is to sell people on a mode that's much, much different than traditional biking. Our target audience for this program is not the avid cyclist, but rather the avid car driver, the people who are turned off by the physical effort, the unavoidable sweat and time burden inherent to riding a non-motorized bike. E-bikes are totally different. They're perfect for people of all ages and fitness levels, and for those who might like to make green trips, but won't or can't use public transit and don't feel safe or just simply don't want to share rides with other people. Our program has almost no restrictions. We allow class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes, as well as conversion kits and even electric mopeds that go under 30 miles per hour. We recommend people shop at local bike shops, but we allow purchases from everywhere. One of the main goals that we built into our program was to increase public awareness of e-biking itself. We wanted to create a group of 500 unofficial e-bike ambassadors in every neighborhood who are going to continue to promote e-biking and to educate friends and neighbors about the mode long after getting the rebate. And this word of mouth advertising is working. In our follow-up survey, we ask about the reactions people are getting from others. 95% report that they've been asked about their e-bike or e-biking in general by friends, family members, neighbors, coworkers, and even strangers. So if every person who gets a rebate talks to at least 3 other people about it, and our survey data says that the number is much higher than 3 people, then that means that our program is actually reaching at least 3 times more people than we're serving directly. Now, I've learned that the best way to sell e-biking is to simply let someone ride one for themselves. So I'm going to share a quick story to illustrate my point. This photo here is of my very dear friend and neighbor, Cindy. She's a regular suburban woman. She's not super athletic. She's a great person and a typical Contra Costa resident who drives for every trip. This is someone who used to ride a regular bike maybe once a year. Last spring, she and her husband took my new e-bikes for a test ride and rode around the neighborhood. She loved it. She was hooked. I told her about the rebate program I was running at work. And 2 weeks later, she and her husband bought 2 e-bikes of their own. Then fast forward 8 months, and just last week, she texted me this photo over here of her odometer, showing that she hit the 1,500 mile mark in 8 months. So it's been a life changer for her. And I'm hearing many similar sentiments in our follow-up surveys. Now, in addition to her own accomplishments, Cindy's turned at least 4 other Contra Costa residents into e-bikers too. She convinced 2 of her colleagues and her next door neighbors to get e-bikes and to apply for our rebate. And to back up just a little bit further, my husband and I bought our own e-bikes about a year ago after some friends of ours showed us theirs and said, you got to take them for a test drive. So if you do the contact tracing in this saga, 2 original e-bikes in my own personal story led directly to the purchase of at least 8 additional e-bikes in this county. So the point here is that a program like ours that gets people on e-bikes is going to continue to pay off through word of mouth. Now, you obviously can't evaluate a program's success on personal stories alone. So is it actually working? And what is the data telling us? We send follow-up surveys 2 months after our rebate is approved. And we have an incredible 86% response rate, which again tells us that people are still very excited and love to talk about their e-bikes. We know that our participants are mostly middle-aged people who own or use cars for the majority of their trips. The vast majority report that they are replacing car trips with e-bikes, and almost 90% are riding 1 to 7 days every week. 501 Contra Costa, we certainly don't want to create programs that take people off buses. And our data shows that while e-bikes are replacing car trips, they are not replacing public transit trips. And you can see that here on the left side chart, where orange shows how often people are e-biking in place of driving, and the green shows that most people answered never when asked how frequently their e-bikes are replacing transit trips. The chart on the right side shows that people are e-biking a wide variety of trip lengths. And to calculate the average number of reduced VMT, we asked specifically about rides that are replacing auto trips. And we found that the average round trip distance for that is about 8 miles. This next slide here, this is my favorite. The top chart shows that before owning an e-bike, 71% of our customers, seen here in orange, rarely, if ever, rode a regular bike. These are the people like Cindy. Of these non-bikers, as seen in the second chart below, 85% of these people who never or rarely rode bikes before are now riding e-bikes 1 to 7 days every single week. And this data is incredible because it shows that e-biking should not be put in the same category as traditional biking. They should be promoted as a new and excellent option for non-polluting, low-cost alternative to driving. Personal mobility and auto ownership practically define American culture, as we all know. And this makes my job very hard. Getting people to switch from driving to just about any other mode of clean transportation is sort of like getting people to switch from eating cookies to eating broccoli. We know it's the right thing to do, but it's hard and it doesn't make us happy. In many parts of Contra Costa, where suburban bus transit is much less convenient than driving, and where the spread out built environment makes carpooling a challenge, asking people to shift away from driving is asking for a major inconvenient lifestyle change that doesn't, at least on the surface, provide direct, immediate personal benefit to the individual making the switch. However, getting someone to use their own personal e-bike for at least some of their usual car trips is a much easier ask because it provides more than just environmental and transportation related benefits. They offer convenient, on-demand personal mobility on a device that's actually fun and which provides easy and free recreation to boot. The riding experience makes people feel happy and energized, empowered and independent. And these are not the words you often hear about the various other alternatives to driving. So while the additional benefits to public health and mental well-being that come with e-biking are not the goals we're trying to meet, the fact is it's the fun and happiness factors that sell the mode. And as I said at the beginning of this presentation, you're not going to become a bike commuter if you don't love biking. And a lot of people just don't love riding a traditional bike. But as you can see here on this slide, people love e-biking. Now, I've painted a pretty rosy picture about the benefits of e-biking, but we also asked people about the barriers. And these surely won't come as a surprise to any of you. Our survey data shows that vandalism, theft, and bike parking concerns, fear of traffic collisions, and lack of adequate bike lanes are major barriers to more frequent e-biking. People indicated that they'd like to ride to retail centers, grocery stores, downtown areas, medical facilities, work sites, but are very uncomfortable locking their e-bikes in standard bike racks. People expressed a much more confidence in electronic bike lockers, such as those found at BART. And while our survey unfortunately didn't ask about the high security bike stands with integrated lock bars, such as those at those bike keep stands that we talked about, I think, at our last meeting, and seen here on the slide here at the bottom. Installing these in places where e-lockers aren't feasible, at retail centers, downtowns, etc., could also help ease fears and cause people to bike more. In terms of safety, continued complete street improvements and the prioritization of separated and protected bikeways will contribute to more e-bike and traditional bike usage. In the meantime, providing bike safety education about street riding and how to navigate traffic while sharing space with vehicles could also help encourage more e-bike trips. And 511 Contra Costa has in fact started offering free classes. In fact, we have one scheduled tomorrow night. I'm going to wrap it up here, but basically both the transportation and quality of life factors of e-biking are benefits that we can all be touting when speaking with people in our communities. While the switch from internal combustion to electric vehicles is inevitably on the horizon for most drivers, the comparatively low cost of e-bikes makes going electric more affordable and easier in the near term. There's never been a better time to start nudging people toward e-bikes, and our rebate incentive might just be the final nudge that some people need to make the switch. So please help promote this to anybody who's interested in e-biking. We have a lot more data about our program. User statistics, including comparative data between low income and standard rebate categories, as well as age group comparisons and more, is available on our full pilot year program report. And I'm happy to share that with anyone who'd like to learn more. So that is it for my presentation. If anybody has questions, you can ask them now, or you can always send them to me in an email. Basically, the point of this whole thing is that most of our meetings are talking about building safe bike lanes and infrastructure. But if we don't get people to actually want to start biking, no one's ever going to use them. So it's also important to look at the behavior aspects of biking. Anyway, that's enough for me. If anybody has anything to contribute, jump on in.
All right, thank you for that presentation, Kirsten. Now I'll take questions or comments from the committee. And Bill, I see your virtual hand is up.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very encouraging about how it's taking off. And of course, I see e-bikes everywhere nowadays. And I have to say that the one I bought, as a codger with a lot of arthritis, really helps out. And of course, you can ride them faster and just as hard as a regular bike if you so desire. But I wouldn't recommend riding along with a bunch of broccoli in your hand. That's not a good idea. But one issue that's concerning about e-bikes is they cost a lot, and there's a lot of theft. Nowadays with the cordless grinders, people can take locks fairly easily. Now, there might be a topic for future discussions of this committee, and there are things like, well, there are GPS little thingies that you can put on your bike that helps, but we might want to talk about that aspect of it, and you might want to think about that yourself, Kirsten, so about security.
Thank you.
All right, next, Ozzy.
Thanks, y'all. Great presentation. I'm sure the board had a lot of great questions, great visuals. I remember when the program first took off and we received a lot of questions from residents and folks, maybe hence why Walnut Creek residents really took you up on that rebate offer. I also think the mayor also took you up on the offer and even announced it at a city council meeting, hence why maybe a lot of folks found out about it. I hear you, Kirsten. I think the programmatic piece is just as important as the infrastructure. I'm just more curious with the success of this program. Have you been asked to present it at other regional 511s, either in the Bay Area, or is there something statewide that could kind of take this model and replicate it? And I know the state did some rebates as well, but I'm just thinking, I can't think of another 511 that did something like this.
There have been a few energy companies, Peninsula Clean Energy, Redwood Energy, Sonoma Clean Power, I think have done e-bike rebate programs as well. And the state is currently working on a e-bike rebate pilot. I think, Colin, you've been listening along to some of those working group calls. They're hoping to launch a statewide e-bike rebate, equity only focused, I think sometime mid-year this year. Yeah, we've talked to some other UC Davis, UC, a couple of universities have asked for information about our program. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of gaining a little bit of steam here and there, but there haven't been very many, no.
And so like, where do you see like the 2.0, like where do you see this going? or growing, I guess?
Well, we're going to continue to fund our program for another year, as is, with our somewhat smaller rebates. Some of the other rebate programs, for example, Peninsula Clean Energy, they issued $800 rebates compared to our $300, and it was 100% low income only. And we sort of, when we came up with this, again, it was a pilot program, so we had to come up with an amount, and there wasn't really much to go off of when we started ours. And we ended up picking a lower amount to be able to give out more rebates, like quantity over amount, just because of that word amount factor that we're trying to get. So we figured the more people on e-bikes talking to their neighbors, the better. And it's funny because I approve all the rebates when they come in or decline them. And I'm seeing neighbors, I recognize a street name. I'm like, oh, I think they've already applied. And I check, oh no, it's the next door neighbor. So people are, that's been happening a lot. So it's really, the mayor talks about it and 3 other people go and buy it, So the word of mouth, getting more people with a bonus rebate is helpful. So I think we're going to continue with that kind of mode for the time being.
Great work on this. Thanks.
Sean, next.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for that presentation. It was funny, fun, and engaging. And I think it's really kind of sold the program. So I just really want to thank you for that. It was really good. So the question I have is, you showed a lot of data and survey data. Did 511 complete that data, or were those intercept surveys, or how were those completed?
Those were user surveys, so it's self-reported data. Yeah, and we did the analysis.
Oh, that's great. Good. Okay, I may be talking to you offline a little bit on that. But do you know what the average cost of an e-bike, like a class 1 or 2 e-bike, is these days? And what is this, like a 10% discount that the people are getting, or is it more?
Well, we kept track of how much people spent on the e-bikes for our program. And so we've, as I say, given out 530 rebates so far. And I think the average price that people have spent is around the $1,200 mark. And there's certainly been, there's a very cheap model at Costco that people bought for $330. Some people have been buying Walmart bikes for around $400 to $600. But the average is around $1,200. And now that Rad Bikes has a store in Berkeley, I think, we've been getting a lot of Rad Bikes, and those are around $1,500 or so. So, they are expensive, as Bill said, but compared to driving, they're much less expensive.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think the price has significantly gone down, though, right? Because I remember them being 5,000 or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Kirsten? All right, I don't see any hands up. Any members of the public like to have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All right, Kirsten, thank you for that presentation. All right, next we'll move on to item F, which is other business / information sharing. Is there any other business or information the committee members or staff would like to share?
I will share that 501 Contra Costa is just started week 2 of our winter walk challenge, which is fun, free, and it's an encouragement program to get people outside and walking and replacing as many local trips by foot as they can. So if you're interested, check it out. It's a lot of fun. We have over 2,000 people participating already, and some great photos are coming in. Check out our website.
Thank you, Kirsten. Any other comments by committee members?
Actually, I have one more. I'm sorry to be hogging everything.
No worries.
But Bike to Work Day looks like it's on for this year. May 20th, which is a Friday. And I've, at least for Central and East Contra Costa, I've been reaching out to my old Energizer hosts from 3 years ago, I guess, which was the last time it was sort of a in-person event. And we're just sort of kind of testing the wind and seeing what people are thinking for Bike to Work Day. And it would be interesting if any of you had comments about, normally Bike to Work Day Energizer stations, as I'm sure you know, are, during the AM peak and the PM peak commute hours. And I know a lot of people are still working from home. Who knows what's going to be happening in May, but if anybody has opinions about how the day should look, we'd love to hear from it. I know Darlene and Corey are also coordinating with Energizer station hosts in their region. So I don't know if anybody has feelings about it and wants to share, we'd love to hear it.
Well, hallelujah. I hope it comes off as planned. Bike to Anywhere Day was okay, but Bike to Work Day is one of my favorite events of the year. And it would be really nice if it, at least for now, got back to normal. I'm a little worried about Omicron, but as I'm sure we all are, but that's wonderful news if it happens.
And Kristen, I have one comment on that, and it's not something that you're directly responsible for, but I've heard it was, you mentioned that it's on a Friday, the 20th, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
May 20th? Okay, just Friday could be a little difficult for some people, because I know they have that off, so,
Mm-hmm.
but so I guess maybe hopefully in the future they'd have it on one of Monday through Thursday when there's more people in the office.
I think the idea was they were trying to align with the National Bike to Work Day, which is the Friday. So
understood, and that's why I mean, you're not directly picking the date, but just a general comment. So understood.
Yeah, it's been on a Thursday for the last decade, I think. So
yeah, and that's why I regularly recall that prior to COVID, it was always on a Thursday. So I thought that was a better day. But like I said, yeah, you're not in the decision making capacity for dates, but hopefully in the future.
Well, that's why I wonder, maybe it would be better if people did Energizer stations midday, and maybe it's a Friday and you bike out for lunch or something instead of 6 to 10 a.m. I don't know. Anyway, you can think about it. If you have any great ideas, send them our way.
All right, we'll do. Thanks, Kirsten. Any other comments for other business? If none, I do want to make one comment, and it's more of a timing issue because it's going to take place probably prior to the March meeting. The county, we've brought it to CBPAC last year. We're working on developing an unincorporated county active transportation plan. There should be a draft active transportation plan that will be scheduled for release in mid-February. So county appreciates any feedback on the draft active transportation plan once that becomes available. If you want more information on that, feel free to reach out to me and I can provide, the active transportation plan, the draft plan at that time, or answer any questions you have. All right, we'll move on to, let me go back to the agenda here. Item G, the upcoming subjects for discussion. Are there any upcoming topics that committee members would like to discuss at the next meeting? Bill? Bill, you're muted.
Said I was unmuted, so I didn't see the symbol. Well, how about now? Can you hear me? Yeah. Just reiterate what I said before, and I think at some point when I think about bike security, not just, of course, for electric bikes, but in general, a lot of theft and that sort of thing. People want to feel secure. Maybe we can find some more funds for bike lockers. They're great. But obviously you can't have them everywhere. And maybe there's something maybe, I don't know, maybe we can go back to the lot companies or do something like that, some recommendations, tell them how, but it would be good to get the statistics on just how much of this occurs, how much is happening. Anyway, something to kick around.
All right, thanks, Bill. Any other suggestions for upcoming subjects for discussion?
Robert, Sean here. Yeah, I think that we might want to, I don't know, I think we want to talk about kind of our vision and work plan for the year, probably with this group at some point. And I think Colin and you and I can probably talk a little bit about that more. But I think that's it'd be nice to know what our goals might be this year, what's upcoming and things. So let's plan on that. One of the suggestions I have was just possibly really getting to know our bike plan in Contra Costa County somehow, going through it or looking at maps or something. I'm yeah, I don't know, maybe that's painful for everyone, or maybe it's helpful. I don't know, but I think it really would help, because I think it was 2018 and we're looking at next year to update that, Colin. Or how many years is that bike ped plan good for?
I think there's technical updates every 2 years, generally speaking, and the major overhaul update type might occur every 5 years or so, but I don't think it's necessarily codified or required. But it's definitely something that can be discussed.
Yeah, that's what's recommended for city bike plans too, about 5 years, but ours was as well, and we haven't got to it yet. So it's going on about 7 years, but yeah, that's a goal. 5 years is a goal.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and especially if you worked on developing it before, motivation and all that, but yes, it should be done as much as we can. One thing that would be good too is to somehow make our system more public, make more people aware of it as we begin to get more people riding. I mean, sure, there are bike maps and all that, and bike apps, and a lot of people use them, but I wonder if there's some way, we just think about it, about engaging more members of the public, letting them know what is possible in their area, that where they might bike to, especially if they're new bikers.
Colin, Robert here. I have a question about, because I think you'll be bringing the pedestrian needs assessment to the different RTPCs. Will the CBPAC be receiving an update on results from that? Would that take place in March or May?
Yeah, we can definitely include that on one of the upcoming agendas, whether it's March or the one afterward.
Okay, thank you. Oops, actually, sorry, I realized I muted myself here. Any other items for committee members to suggest?
Yeah,
Oli?
Oli, I'd like to comment you, Robert, and everyone here on an excellent, productive meeting. Funding the projects that I want to ride on is very important, and this committee is helping move in that direction. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks for the comment, Oli. All right, if no other items to suggest for the next meeting, we'll move on to item 5, which is adjournment. So this meeting has been adjourned at, look at my clock here, 12:54. So thank you all. Have a good rest of your day. Ozzy, good luck in Palo Alto. So
Good luck, Ozzy.
Thanks,
Yeah,
y'all.
you've just increased